right, guys. So an interesting choice here. I think this is the first time I've ever done a soybean analysis for any of you guys. I was kind of pleased to see that there was some interest here in trading in the futures market. Now, you know, beans are a funny thing, right? So I've had a lot of experience here. Remember, I was a futures and options broker for 10 years and traded a lot of soybeans, right? So I know this market very, very well. It's not an easy market to trade. Some people will tell you if you're trading beans, you're trading the weather. How do you predict that? So, approach with caution here. This is not a place to be unhedged. Now, it can be very lucrative because if you get these volatility moves. Let me give you an idea of what I'm talking about here. So I had to go out to the 3-day to give you the bigger picture. So I've got a continuous contract here. So we can go all the way back to the 99 lows. That's right when I sold my brokerage firm, right in 99. So, but I digress. So over here now, so we can see this nice. Well, I got to bring it down here. This nice impulsive move that we have off of the low. Now, clearly, it's one big diagonal. So you can get a 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can see the diagonal in the fifth of the fifth. It's the kind of volatility that's created in soybeans. So love it or hate it. Very volatile market. So I'm not an advocate for trading in here just straight futures myself, right? It's always, again, so we kind of move into areas we haven't really spent a lot of time on, but this is a place where option trading can be very effective and reduce some of the exposure because these kind of spikes can come out of nowhere. So you got to be careful in here. But for whatever reason, I'm just glad to see you guys are expressing some interest here. Now let me change that. The grid looks kind of wonky. Okay, so with this diagonal that we can look at over this. Well, shit, what do we got there? 13-year diagonal that played out. So a motive wave completes. We're looking for some sort of corrective action here, but I just don't think it's. Well, there's a corrective count we can get on this now. So if we look at this, so okay, we got a completed motive wave here. We're just going to draw swing low to swing high. Well, we've broken golden zone here. Actually, I've got the 786 taken off here. I think I was doing something and it was cluttering up the chart, so I pulled it off. So let's get that back on here. So we're within the realm of where you might anticipate a deeper retracement. You can see this, interestingly, was a straight pivot down. Just look at that, just straight down. Now this is a 3-day chart. Look at that. So there you go. Why trade soybeans? Right. Well, so here, from this pivot here, we don't quite make the golden zone here, but we get this cluster at the 50, and then straight rip down. It gets to the golden zone, bounce, 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 but it's too weak. Now we get this little bit. Now, of course, we have, complicating just the fundamental story that's in soybeans. You have, government policy and our president's negotiation with the Chinese here that is definitely affecting the markets here. So you've got some variables in here that you need to be cautious about. This actually, you note here, we got second target to the tick. I don't know if you can see this, but from this cluster here, just beyond the 50, we get second target down here to the tick. Right, pretty interesting. Now, so we look here and think, okay, is that corrective? Well, let me pull this off here. This is kind of interesting. Note this trend line here, just tagging all of this here, and we come down. Interesting how precise that's been, but I'm going to pull that off. Just because that was me kind of laying out a few ideas here. Now this is a bit tricky here. So what your eye wants to do is go, oh well, what's the big deal? 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like we're going down for a 5. And you certainly that's a contender here. We have that case. So you would, putting that in context, if we've got a completed motive wave here, which I think is hard to argue with that. What do we got here? So so is this going to be just a giant ABC? Well, shit, why not, right? So it could be we're going to do something like that, but how far can we go down, right? And again, we don't have to go to new lows here. But right now, even here at this 3-day, we still have, if I use the lowest low here, we still have an internal retracement. We are internal to this motive wave here. So before I start just making assumptions, oh, well, it looks like we've got another motive wave here. there's two ways we can look at this here. So of course, let me raise this degree here so this stands out a little bit. Let me go to minuet and we'll put it in blue here. So this can't be eliminated here. So we would have, with this overlap here, we'd have another diagonal. So if I open this up, let me go to the daily here, because you've got a pretty solid sequence of ABCs rather than impulse waves. So this looks like ABC here. So coming off of the top here, so if I use the A, here's a slight front run on the 50. So, you know, it's not to the tick, but they certainly made sure they got filled. So you get a little reaction here, then they scoot it through. Ultimately gets third target down here. Notice that? So if this is 1, and then this ABC looks fairly solid. So then now looking here, if we go down to the 1, all right, so hit this, putting this in as the 2. Let me, oh shit, I got too much blue here. So let me go to, we'll put this in here, hang on. We just kind of keep these separated here. I'll go back to white. Okay, so if this looks like a solid ABC, ABC. Down we go. Looks like this is such a straight rip, right? The subdivision here, you can probably get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into your A. Now, not much of a B. So either you, it's a couple of different ways you could do it. Because this is just slightly overlapping here, I'm for a motive wave here, I like this better as the 4. So that would imply that this is our, if we're going to stay, now knowing this, right, of course you wouldn't know that until you saw the overlap. Now, so we're here analyzing this with the benefit of that hindsight, but it looks like we go A, B, C into our 3. And then from here, you know, shit, A, B, not much of an A, B. All right, so what's your alternate? Well, I suppose you could think of it this way. You could think of it here. We're just going to get a shallow C. So we might think of it this way. Oh, well, if that's not going to work here, I can probably do my ABC here. So we're getting a shallow C relative to the A. But then if I look here, now come here. So if this here, it's just easier to redraw. So let me do this. So if this is a 2 and this is a 3. Well, what do we do? Right to the 50 here. So a little spike through, as you'll often see in futures, particularly in beans, but it invalidates from an Elliott perspective. So no longer can we think of this as an impulse. So the ABC that we see here fits better as for an impulse. So you'd be that overlap here. Now remember, with a diagonal, you're looking for something technical between the start of the 1, the pivot of the 3. So here we come 38, damn near to the tick. Looks like it goes just a couple of ticks through, just enough to overlap the 1 here. So if you're thinking, yeah, see, I think even though the subdivision is not great, I think this plays better here as a 4 of a diagonal. And now perhaps A, B. Now, are we done yet? We could be done. All right, we could be done. So that's one possibility. It doesn't seem to make as much sense. So this teeing up here, and this is another. So this is another algo play. It would look like ABC. It doesn't look like we're done yet. So this could be just the A wave here going in. If we're going to finish here, so this, or A, B, C of this C wave. We don't know yet what we're going to get here. So you got to look at it and say, well, if this is going to be the A wave, B, you know, how low are we going to go, right? So at some point, it just doesn't get realistic. So here's the alternate. So this occurs to me. You might be able to count it this way. So if we could consider this as a WXY. So I got ABC, ABC, ABC. So you could do it this way, which might make more sense. So if this is ABC, we've got a WXY. ABC, ABC into the X, ABC into the, well, shit, I'm going to need another X. Hang on, I got the wrong one here. So I need this one. So we could go ABC into a W, ABC into an X, ABC into a Y. Good luck with the subdivision, but coming down here for an ABC. Now that I don't hate that. Right? So, you know, so it looks like here now could we be done here? Right? So essentially, You know, it's not quite a double. Well, we get a double bottom over here. Now remember, I'm on the daily chart here, so we're running into some prior support here. This is, let's see, we scrunch this up. Oh shit, I can't scrunch. Well, you get the idea. There's some potential looking left here. This is also obviously would be something to be watching. So we've got this little cluster down here that we might be paying attention to. So if this is going to go W, X, Y, X, Z, well, we're looking for the ABC. Now this could be done. Now the symmetry, it's not horrible. It's not horrible. The C seems a little skinny, but so all you can do is just kind of check it and say, well, it's one of the two. So if the length of the A, we come right between the 50 and the 618. So this is already, I know, as I've tell you guys, it doesn't matter. The underlying asset does not matter. And so here we are in soybeans. There's your algo play right there. So they sell it here. They take profit here. Now we've had a little reaction off of that. So is the ABC finished? Well, we can go down to the 4 hour. You know, so the subdivision is there. So you could get it this way. You could get the 1, 2. And I don't, you know, of course that's not ideal. You wouldn't want to see that skinny of a 4. But in the context of, well, can I get the subdivision? Let me get that degree down here. We'll go to something you can see. So we'll go to yellow. So I've got the 1, 2. I've got the subdivision into the 3. So I've got an impulse here. You know, kind of an ugly, but it looks like A, B, C into the 4 here. So we have a lower pivot for the C of the 4. And then, yeah, it's, you know, it looks like it's straight down here, but you'd have to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Good luck on the 5. So you're kind of making an educated guess here. So the 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I guess yeah, actually, maybe you could do it that way, right? So this looks like, well, that might be just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like you could do it because this is just barely higher. Like, if you guys can see that. So we're just barely we escape. So this could be 1, 2, 3, 4, and we get a 5. So we end with a diagonal into this pivot. That's possible. So we've got a contender here for this thing to have finished down here with this double bottom. So if that's 3, 4, 5, A, B, C, and we can finish with the 5 here, well, then where the heck are we? So what do we got now? Well, this sure looks like a 1, 2. So let's think about that. So if that's done, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, we've already overlapped. So now let me get that degree up a bit here. Let's go to, okay, so let me scrunch that back up. Okay, would that make sense? Well, if this is A, B, are we done? Right? Could we be done here? Well, here's the double pumps through the algo target. We could be. You know, the symmetry is a little odd. So how are we going to know? Well, first thing, do we get a motive wave here? So we've got a contender. Oh shit, that's an ugly 3. But if we're in a diagonal, I suppose we can get an ABC out of that. So as a diagonal, we're looking for something technical between the start of the 1, the pivot of the 3. Here's 38 to the tick, just as I showed you one before. We did the same thing. You know, ideally it's at the 4, and this may not be done, but I can't ignore that I've got a nice little technical pivot here. So could that play? Sure, right? So if this comes out of here and we can get up to that target, well, now we've got maybe a better idea of where we are. So if this is going to give me a motive, then I would be a little bit more enthusiastic about this being done down here. Let's put that minuet here. So let's pull that back out and look. Oh, shit, I guess I can't do it. Let's go to an 8 hour. Yeah, so immediately I'm drawn to the idea we might have some median lines here that would be of interest. So, oh shit, I hadn't even considered that, but that's kind of interesting. If I'm right on there, so we've just tagged that median. Now, so let's look here. So from that pivot, corner pocket, right? Not golden, right? We're kind of in between. That's, you know, catching the lower edge here. But of course, first thing we want to look for is original recipe. So, you know, it's a little sloppy down there. So I'd like to see more precision than that. Now, it's not uncommon to cluster around the median line Trading principle number 4, if we're going to hover around it before deciding which direction we go, note here we've just hit the the upper parallel. Now, if this is going to have another kick to get up to give us a 1, then I think this is going to start to look a little bit better. Probably some other variables here to look at. So shift has it right on the corner. Modified shift being a set of channels. Interesting, now we catch this pivot. But note here now this the lower parallel looks like it's framing the market rather nicely. Cluster, hover around the median line. So is there a trade here? Well, yeah, you could get long right here. So from you'd be at 90, $9, 907. So up here to there's nothing wrong with that. So risk reward is not terrible there. So if you were just long right here, stop under the 4, which is how I would do it. So what do we get there? 3.5 to 1. Well, we might be a little hot there. Yeah. So is that enough for you? Well, if your stop's under the 38, you could tighten it up. Maybe you make that case if you can get it to 3 to 1. Not quite. Not quite. So if you're just using the algo target, that's a judgment call. If 2.87 to 1 is enough for you, that would not be enough for me. So if I don't get 3 to 1 with my first target, that's a trade I'll let go and wait for something better. Or, right, so the alternate here, if we clean this up, if this is going to finish, if we're going to get a little motive wave here, and we'll just use that as a target, if we're going to get up there and this is going to finish, whoops, what I want is this, well then I know I'd be more confident in the idea that I've got a motive wave coming off of the low, a nice little diagonal. So if this isn't, the Z is in down here, and we're correcting that, what did I say, 13-year diagonal that was in place. Well, if I can get a motive here, I'm going to feel better about the idea that if that starts to come down and I get a little ABC, then I'm going to feel pretty good about the possibility of getting into that third. So that's what I'd be watching for. So so you could trade the long from the 3 to the 5 if you're just dying to get long of beans, right? So there is a trade there. It would not meet my criterion, but somebody, maybe just buy a single option, maybe, as we know, just because there's an algo target there doesn't mean it must stop there, but you could anticipate a reaction there. This is the trade that I like better here because, so just think about what the risk reward would be on that. That's going to be much better here. So we could use this here. We could just use a target here back to the golden zone here. So we could use, well, you wouldn't have to go that far here. So there, right there is 5.8 to 1. So if this is going to finish as a 1 and then we get a little retrace, now of course nothing says it stops there. This could keep going. This count could get relabeled, reevaluated. This is still a little bit of a guesstimate as to whether or not we're finished down here. I don't hate it, but I'd feel better if I got this so I'd have more confidence. Okay, low, higher probability that the low is in, because if I get a motive here, then I can lean more into the idea that I've just got a double bottom here and I'm just starting into a 1-2 before we go up. So that's what I see there. And you just there's so many variables that come into play here. You've got seasonality, you got weather patterns, you've got old crop versus new crop. I mean, this is not a market to trade without some insight into understanding it. So I'm so surprised to see so many of you guys requesting beans here. Now, maybe it's the difficult count. Maybe some of you guys are diversifying into other assets here, but you got to be cautious in soybeans because they can. So look here, right? So you get, you can get some pretty big rips. So that's a double-edged sword, right? When you're right, you're going to get paid. When you're wrong, you're going to get hurt. So don't be in here loosely without real confidence in what you're doing, where the trade is, where you're out. Are you going to use an option? Are you just going to go into straight futures? You've got possible gap openings here because we don't trade, like contracts that you're familiar with. So you got to be careful in here. That's my broader point here. I'm not saying don't trade it, but if you've never traded beans before, maybe a little research on exactly understand where you are, what the seasonal trends are. If you're going to go into the futures market, what month are you going to trade? Are you a new crop, old crop? There's a lot more to it than just, oh, that chart looks interesting. So approach with caution. If it's me, I'm waiting for the retrace, right? So I don't like this enough. There's not enough in it. And coming down here, I'd certainly trade it. But for me, I'd do it with options. All right, guys, there you go. At least get a look at the count here and where likely the next opportunity is. Okay, back.